We spend a huge chunk of our lives inside them. But do we ever really stop and think about what an organization actually is? Or why management is even a thing? Well, today we're going to strip it all back to the basics, the fundamental ideas that pretty much shape our entire work lives, to uncover a really simple truth about how we humans get big things done.
It really all boils down to this one simple but honestly pretty profound question. Just look around you for a second at the skyscrapers in our cities, the phone in your hand, the fact that we've sent people to the moon. How in the world do we do any of that? Well, the answer is our amazing ability to work together in a structured way. And that's the big idea we're going to unpack right now.
So, let's start at the very beginning. Before we can even talk about managing anything, we have to understand the what that's being managed, right? We've got to talk about the fundamental problem that organizations were invented to solve in the first place. At its absolute heart, an organization is just a tool. It's a way to get leverage. It's a deliberate arrangement, and that word is key, of people all working to achieve a goal that none of them could possibly handle alone. Think about it like organizing a massive community potluck. You can't cook for 200 people by yourself, no way. But an organized group, we can create an absolute feast. And that exact same principle is what builds software, launches rockets, and runs hospitals.
So what does a giant tech company and our little community potluck have in common? Well, they all share these three things. First, they have a distinct purpose, a goal. For us, it's throwing an awesome potluck. Second, they're made up of people. The folks bringing all the food. And third, and this is so important, they have a deliberate structure. You don't just show up and hope for the best, right? That would be chaos. No, you have sign-up sheets, you decide who's on appetizers, who's on desserts. That's structure. That's the magic key.
Okay, so you've got your people arranged, you've got a clear goal, but now what? How do you actually guide this group to achieve that goal? See, just having an organization isn't quite enough. You need a way to steer the ship. And that, my friends, brings us to management.
Now, I really want you to pay attention to the wording here because it's so telling. Management is described as an art. It's not just a science full of processes and spreadsheets. No, it's the art of getting things done through and with people. At its core, it's a deeply human thing, all about coordination, motivation, and collaboration.
And the person who practices this art? Well, that's the manager. Their main job, their whole reason for being, is to coordinate and oversee the work of others. Think of them as the conductor of an orchestra or the head coordinator of our potluck, making sure everyone and everything is working together in harmony to hit that final amazing goal. But of course, in most organizations, it's not just one person trying to do all that coordinating. That deliberate structure we talked about, it usually creates different layers of management, and each layer has a totally different focus. So let's break down what that typically looks like. This table lays it out perfectly. Way up at the top, you've got your top managers. They're making the huge company-wide decisions. They're the ones who say, you know what, we're going to have a community potluck. Then you've got your middle managers. Their job is to take that big dream and translate it into a real plan. They manage the first line managers, telling them, okay, you're in charge of main courses and you're going to handle all the drinks. And finally, you have the first line managers. They're right there on the ground, managing the employees who are doing the actual work, the day-to-day stuff, making sure Sarah brings her famous potato salad. All right, so we've got our organization, we've got our managers, but how do we actually know if they're any good at their jobs? How do we measure success? This brings us to two of the most critical and honestly most confused concepts in the entire world of management: efficiency versus effectiveness. This distinction is absolutely crucial. Efficiency is all about how you do something. It's doing things right by using the fewest possible resources, less time, less money, less effort. But effectiveness, that's all about what you're doing in the first place. It's doing the right things by picking the correct goals to begin with. Here's an easy way to think about it. Efficiency is taking the fastest possible route, while effectiveness is making sure you're driving to the right destination to begin with. And this, right here, is the whole shebang. Because you can be unbelievably efficient at a task that just doesn't matter, which is a complete and total waste of energy. It's kind of like efficiently climbing a ladder. Super fast, super skilled, but the ladder is leaning against the completely wrong wall. You get to the top in record time, but you're in the wrong place. The ultimate goal for any manager, for any organization, is to be both. And when you finally manage to combine both of those things, When you're doing the right things and you're doing them right, that is when you get productivity. That's the sweet spot. Productivity is the ultimate measure. It shows that you're not just spinning your wheels and being busy, but that you're making real, meaningful progress toward the right goals with the least amount of waste. So, that brings us to one last thought I want to leave with you. Think about your own job, or your team, or even just a personal project. It's so easy to get caught up in being busy, right? Just doing things right by clearing your inbox or checking tasks off a list. But the real question, the much more important question is, are you focused on doing the right things to begin with? That's the real heart of management, and it's a question worth thinking about long after you're done with this.